Back live to the Kenny Report.
Talked a bit about home quarantine and the New South Wales trial at the top of the program. South Australia has been trialling this system as well. Let's cross to Adelaide and catch up with Liberal Senator for South Australia, Alex Antic. Good to talk to you, Alex. South Australia, look, we're going too slow on all this stuff, would be my argument, but home quarantine is obviously the way to go, and South Australia is continuing with its trials.
Yeah, look, it is. So they've started off with this home quarantine app, which I think is actually a bit of an interesting proposition. It's almost a bit Orwellian for mine. It's almost a social credit style app. I mean, I understand people don't want to be locked in a Medi hotel, but this home quarantine app is a little bit alarming. It effectively requires those who are quarantining to show facial recognition data, GPS data all at the same time, and if within 15 minutes they don't get a response, SA Health potentially will send the police around. So this is a pretty extraordinary development. I think we've talked about before. I think we've got to find better ways to deal with this. But I remember a time when the SA Health bureaucrats trusted South Australians to do the right thing and didn't need a social credit style app to do it. I'm a little bit concerned by that development, I've got to say, Chris.
Well, 15 minutes, jeepers, if it's, it's the tight last quarter, who's going to be looking at the phone in the 20 minutes, honestly?
I'd stretch it out to half an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it is a worry with all this sort of stuff, and we accept it so quickly. And this, people will jump at this because you don't want to do locked-in hotel quarantine, and it's a way to make it a little bit freer. But we've got to be reasonable, and especially when we're talking about people who will be vaccinated when they arrive and then tested when they arrive. Surely in a fully vaccinated country, that's going to be about enough.
Well, I think this is what we see when we get a bureaucracy that's almost leading the charge on this stuff. I mean, the best idea is not always the last one we had, and I've seen this being trumpeted around as being a great coup for South Australia. It'll get rolled out across the country, but we've got to remember, without being too alarmist about this is the sort of stuff that the Chinese Communist Party do in Xinjiang to the Uyghurs in order to hunt down what they call suspected criminals, which are actually simply ordinary folk going about their daily business. So, we've given up a lot in South Australia with our freedoms. We've been very lucky in terms of overall exposure to COVID and lockdowns, but between QR codes, COVID marshals and restrictions on this, that and the other, for me, this is one step too far, and we don't want to get too comfortable with this stuff. It's a march on liberty, in my view.
Well, your Liberal Premier there has been as sort of COVID paranoid as Mark McGowan. He just doesn't get as much attention for it. He's been very hard on borders. He's had hard borders into South Australia at the drop of a hat. And he's now saying that even at 80% vaccination, he won't necessarily open up South Australia's borders. That's not on, is it?
Well, I think we've said it for the longest time, Chris, and I think you've said it as well. The key to this is getting the healthcare system right, controlling the virus and getting back to normal as soon as we can. Look, my view is that even the 80% is too long. We've got businesses that are struggling. We've got businesses that are now subject to all sorts of different, lockdown requirements and mandates and masking requirements and all sorts of things. I really do worry that the longer this goes on, the more likely we are to see businesses not around in 6 months' time or 3 months' time, as it is. So, look, this has got to get turbocharged.
Well, your fellow Liberal there, the Premier Stephen Marshall and his Chief Health Officer Nicola Spurrier, they're as paranoid as anybody about this. You have no COVID in South Australia at the moment, yet dancing is banned, and they're talking about people shouldn't be expecting to dance for months in South Australia, even though vaccination rates, of course, are going up. I mean, what do they want?
Well, it certainly doesn't affect me, Chris. I'm the guy at a wedding that will never dance under any circumstances. But people that run weddings are howling about this. I agree. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I actually had a look at the website today. 3 persons per 4 square metres for seated activities, 1 person per 2 square metres for non-seated, 1 per 4 for indoor fitness facilities. You've got to have a mask on except when exercising for indoor facilities, and the list goes on. These are the sort of arrangements that are made in health bureaucrat boardrooms with 12 people around the room, each trying to throw in their 2 cents, and nobody speaking up about it because they're presumably fearful about getting accused of bullying. I think there comes a time when we have to get back to sensible on this stuff. And look, this is a very long list of requirements and imposts on business that are already struggling.
It is nuts. Thanks for joining us, Alex. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Senator Alex Antic there from South Australia. Honestly, these imposition, these nanny state rules, these intrusions, start lifting them off. Don't impose any more. This country's gone to the pack with the nanny staters are in charge, and that's a Liberal state. As I say, this thing is not restricted by party lines.